2008 Acura TL 3.2 liter. I'm doing an alternator replacement job today. Disconnect the negative side of the battery. That is step one. What you're going to do is when you start removing all the parts that are in the way to get the alternator out, is you're going to need to take and disconnect this connector here by putting a flathead screwdriver in there and just pushing it and sliding it backwards. Then you can get this part here and this part here you can push down. And my favorite tool for this job is this. And I'll see if I can find a link on eBay for it. This is the best sensor disconnecting tool because it's got those little tips on it. So once you get this off of that, then you can use the tool and easily push down on here and pull it backwards and separate them. And then as you'll see this like little barb here, or this Christmas tree, there's a connector that goes right down there on the side. And anyway, so you'll use this tool to pry it loose. And then there's this sensor down here, I believe is the AC sensor, and it's going to have or an AC connector for the air conditioner. And you're going to use a long flathead screwdriver, and you're going to go down to the very bottom where it's connected, and you're going to just push back on this tab here, and then pull the wire at the same time, and it should come free. If it doesn't go that way, then push the other way, because I don't remember. So then you're going to take out these two bolts here that go here, and then you're just going to pull the fan assembly out here, just on the passenger side. And this little piece is catching up here. So pull the fan out of the way, and also this container, this overflow container, will be in the way. That goes just down in here, and then there's just one 10mm headed screw that goes in there, and you'll remove a black metal plate and pull this out of there. And that's what the plate looks like there with the 10mm headed screw. And then set this stuff out of the way. And then on to the next steps. I also wanted to mention that using a 10mm open-end wrench, when you have this fan in there, you can just stick your arm down here. Make sure the engine's cold, because you don't want that cat to burn you. The cat converter here on the exhaust. So you'll just take this down there and you'll just get it loose a couple of turns, and you don't need to take the bolt all the way out, because it's got like a little slot where the cut into the fan, where it'll go down and go around the bolt, that's the stud that's sticking out. So you just get it loose a little bit, and then you can use your middle finger and your thumb to loosen it a little bit more, like another 360 degrees, and just leave the bolt in there. And then that's how I was able to get that out. So I just wanted to mention that as well. Okay, so next what you're going to do is you're going to get either a ratchet, 3/8 drive ratchet or whatever, or you could use a 3/8 impact wrench, and you're going to get this 12mm nut off of the charge wire on the alternator. So go ahead and get that out of the way. And then there's a 10mm bolt that went into here that I already took out, so get that out of the way, and then remove the clip by pressing. This is the control wire harness for the alternator, so you can just you can just push through the insulation here, and then it will slide it back and take it off and get it out of the way. So once you get all this nonsense out of the way, then you'll come over here and you'll take the belt off. Try to get a better view for you. So then you'll turn it to the left, which is counterclockwise, and then you'll lift the belt off So I need 2 hands for this. Okay, so then you'll just use a 14mm headed socket, and I've got a nice breaker bar that has a ratchet head on it that's like got a 18-inch handle. And so you'll push, if you're looking at the car like this way, you'll push it towards that way, which is counterclockwise. So you'll push it and get it, and make sure you move the reservoir for the power steering out of the way. It just pulls straight up. There's like a little slot down there, and it just pulls straight up, and move that out of the way. And then you can pull the belt off and just let it kind of let it dangle here. All right, so the next step is to remove a 12mm headed bolt here at the top of the alternator, and then there's another 12 right here where my finger is. And so you'll get these 2 out, and there'll be a bracket that will come out of the way. So this will be the upper alternator bolt here. And then there's one down here. And try to get this out and show you guys. It's always helpful to see things up close. So just using the socket here, the 12mm socket, to get this out. And then just once you get it out, just leave the bolt in there so you know that that's the one that goes in there. And then just keep the other one nearby that bracket where I've got here. And then if you look very far down there, you'll see there's a 14mm headed bolt. I've already got it sticking out about 1/2 inch. And I found that it was easy to use a longer handle ratchet with a deep socket that's 14mm. And if you use a 6-point, it'll be hard because there's limited room, so try to get a 12-point, and that'll help you get it out of there. It will be on tight, and that's why you're going to need a longer handle 3/8 drive to get down in there. And so once you get it down in there, then you can put your hand in between, and you can just kind of move the alternator up and down and just try to wiggle the bolt a little bit to try and get it to come out, because the weight of the alternator will push down on the threads, making it difficult to get out. So once you pull it out, just you'll just have to kind of move around the hoses, and remember, don't push too hard on this hose because it goes on a plastic neck that goes into the power steering pump as its supply here. This is the supply side, so just be careful. This hose is real brittle, and so is this this little neck here, so be real careful, and you just push the reservoir out of the way gently. It should move out of the way gently, even with the brittle hoses and all that, and this neck here. So put your, this is the bottom bolt here. So put that out of the way, and then it should be loose. And another thing that I always like to do is, especially when you're doing an alternator job, and it's really close to the radiator, find an appropriate piece of cardboard and stick it down here so you don't smash into your radiator. So, little tip for the day that will save you a ton of headache later. Okay, so when you get the bottom bolt out and the 2 upper bolts out, what you'll do is you'll remove this upper coil here to the far left, and it just has this little acorn nut on it. So take that off, pinch this connector, pull the coil out, and then when you pull your alternator straight up, you give it a place to go with the piece of cardboard in there. So then you can just pull it straight out where the middle part of the alternator is, between the electrical connector and the ear, the mounting ear. There's a stud sticking out that holds the coil in, and you just put it right there, and you can slide it right up and out. That way you do no damage to the radiator, and you're able to get it out, and you're not going to, have to fight it too much. So That's exactly how I did it, and it worked perfectly. Now that I've got the old alternator out, I can compare to make sure that on the pulley, it has the same amount of teeth as the pulley on the new one. And so if you count the teeth, there's 5, and then here, there's 5. And then you just look to make sure the orientation of the mounting ears are the same, the stud, the charge wire stud is the same, and there's a 4-clip, it's got a special design to it for the control wires that plug into the harness. And then make sure that everything just in every single way is going to be identical, except one will be dirty and one will be clean, okay? Replacement alternator, and you're just going to basically put it in the same way it came out. And that is, like I was saying, how to take the old one out is just this stud that sticks out of the valve cover that holds the coil on. You just feed it down through the center, the middle of the alternator rather, and then just go down to where you'll see you drop that mounting ear into where you line it up with your threads. And if you got it right, you should feel it kind of fit in there. And then you'll get your long bolt here, and then you'll feed that through there and to the bottom, through the hole of the bottom mounting ear of the alternator, and get all the bolts started. Once you get in the 2 bolts here, the 2 12mm headed bolts, and then you get that 3rd bolt down there, the 14mm headed bolt. You get those in tight with your wrench. The first thing you're going to do is you're going to use your wrench, or ratchet rather, and this is what I used here. It's got 12 points on it, and I got a little baby extension on it about 1 inch long, and then I used a flex head long handle, which really comes in handy. You could use a standard wrench here, but you'll be fighting it around in there to get because there's not a lot of space. So get your bolts tight. So with your this smaller 3/8 ratchet, you'll put your 12mm on there, and then you'll get these tight here. So get that one snug, and then get this other one here snug, and then go down and feed this down in the bottom to that bottom one. And just make sure you get that one snug as well. And then, so that bottom bolt down there, you're going to set your torque wrench to 240 inch-pounds or 20 foot-pounds for that bottom bolt. And then for the upper 2 bolts here, you're going to set your torque wrench to around 144 inch-pounds or 12 foot-pounds. So that's what you'll put those to. And then the alternator will be on there and secure and mounted. And if you feel like you'd like to double check the nuts and bolts again, it never hurts, because that just ensures that the job is going to be done right, and that you're not going to have a comeback if you're doing it as a shop technician or something like that, or if you do it for yourself, you don't want to be stranded. So make sure you do that properly. And if one of those bolts come out of there and you lose it, then you're screwed. And if you can't get that alternator to go back on there, and you're in a far away place from home, you're going to be, you're going to have some serious issues. So make sure you get that done right, and get those bolts in tight, and you'll be thankful you did.
So what I was doing here is I was using my inspection mirror to check the bottom bolt of the radiator fan, and then put the overflow container back in for the radiator, and then the bracket that holds it in, and then the two upper bolts on the top of the radiator fan, and then just adjusting all the wiring and disconnect the battery.
Okay, so I got the engine running, and just checking the belt. Make sure the belt is good and tracking perfectly straight on all the pulleys. On the crankshaft, on the idler with the upper pulley and the lower idler pulley, the tensioner and the idler pulley, and then the AC compressor, alternator, and power steering pump. Everything's all centered and good, looks good, tracking perfectly straight, no issues there. So I'm going to hook up my Vantage. And I'm charging at, you can see that, I'm charging at 14.27 volts. I'm not sure where you can see it at, but I'll try my best. So it is charging. I believe the specification is 14.1, between 14.3, something like that in the ballpark. Honestly, I didn't look it up before I did the job, but I believe, just remembering back to another similar model, that this is what it was. So I'm happy with this charging voltage. This looks great, and I'm just going to let it idle here and warm up and charge the battery, and just check, make sure everything looks good, and everything's all good and done here, and I'm going to write up an invoice and ship it. Final thing you want to do once you replace the alternator is, once you jump the battery and get it running, you'll want to use a battery load tester, and just to verify that the battery is in good condition, because the battery and the alternator work together as a team to make your charging system work properly. So you want to make sure that's good. So you could get a load tester from anywhere. This one I picked up from Amazon. It does 100 amps, and so I'm seeing the display of the voltage. I hope that's coming up in the camera, and so I'm going to go ahead and press the test button. And basically what I want to see is, I want to see that it's either weak or good,